morning, everyone. My name is Walter Proctor. I'll be your instructor today for the Construction Inspector training class. With Construction Inspector, we will be using the new Ashtaware project tool. It is an upgrade to the Site Manager. It is a web-based tool for us to all connect into and fill in information for our daily work reports. And then we'll be going through organizer information so we can understand everything to working with it. Myself, as I said, my name is Walter Proctor. I'm your instructor today. I'm an IT training specialist. I'm assisted by Dennis Fuller.
Hello, everybody.
We're mainly covering about 3 major topics today here in the Construction Inspector classes. We'll be going through the new Ashtaware project and instructing you how to navigate through it so that you can use it. If you've used Site Manager, you're going to find this to be a very nice upgrade with the tool so that you can easily organize and work with the information. It is a web-based program, so you will need to make sure that you save your information as you're going through it to keep up to date with your working with it. We will go through some other ways that you can deal with questions, check on the roles that you have organized in to work with it, and keep up to date. Then we'll see about going into daily work reports and working on our daily work reports review and approval processes. As a construction inspector, you would not have to worry about approving them, but you'll be able to review over them and keep up to date with them, what to do with them if your DWRs are rejected, and what your managers are doing on their side, just so you can get a feel for how everything works together. So going in here to working with it, let's go over to ELMS. So if you would log into ELMS, and I'll bring that over here for us to look at. One of the nice things about this training is we have our different CBTs in there to working with it. So with our information on here, once you log into ELMS, you'll have your different training to work with it. Now, I've got a few different projects logged in here to work on it, so I need to see which ones are going to be working with it. So I'm going to go down in here in the My Current Learning field. I'm going to click on My Learning. Now, you can log into ELMS and work with us today, or you can just follow along as I'm working, and the ELMS classes will be available for you to later on. As I come open here, I can see for the date, a class for 12/16/2021. Well, that's today's date. If you want to, you can verify it by clicking on the link here for the Ashtaware Project Construction Inspector. And that will pop open a window here to say that this is 484 AWP CON 010 WBT 45381. That is the course number that we have today that we'll be working with. Scrolling down, I have my class progress, and we see our 3 major, what we call CBTs, or computer-based training, that are here in the class that you'll be able to work through. I've already gone through them a little bit to practice with them. There's my Navigating Ashtaware project, my daily work reports, and my daily work reports review and approve. Now, to open them up, you can either click on the name or you can launch them to get you started as you're working with it. And this will take us through all the training that you're working on. And as I said, these are here for you to review over and to practice again later on, to help you become more confident in using the tool. So here on my class progress screen, I'm going to you can either click on the AWP1 Navigating Ashtaware project, or if you have launch or relaunch, you can see that. If you open the class up by launching it, let me go back a second here. If you click on the little play launch button, that might take you immediately into one of the CBTs, and you'll see the table of contents, which jumps me to the last one I need to work on. I can jump back by clicking on Return to Class Progress, which takes me to my class progress screen, where I can see all of the training I need to work with on here. As I said, we're going to start off with just getting the basics of navigating Ashtaware project. So click on Launch or Relaunch for Navigating Ashtaware project, and that gets you started on here with it. If you have a launch button or a relaunch link on here, you can click on that to start up. That's the computer-based training that you're working with it. And as I said, you can either just follow along on the screen here, or if you're logged into ELMS, you can practice with it on your own. These nice CBTs were developed for us by Infotech, so we can go through them and work on the different exercises and see what's working with it while we wait for the full-on production site to be opened up for working with it. To get started, you have different links to jump you around to different sections on the left-hand side, but I'm going to click on this nice big old play button right here in the middle of the screen. Ashtaware Project, Construction Materials, Navigating Ashtaware Project. Let's click on, and there's our logo for Ashtaware Project. I'm going to click on Next. We have our prepared by information, our logo, and copyright information for the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, all listed for us to work with. This will be the same at the beginning of each of our CBTs, so you'll get used to seeing this. To move forward in here, you can click on the Next button or the Enter key on your keyboard. Click on Next, and we have a little before you begin details on here. Just keep in mind, these screens are basically for training purposes. They might differ a little bit when you're in the live environment, whether you're looking at them on a small little mobile device that you're working with it, or a big screen on there for viewing it. Also, whichever role you're logged into might vary a little bit with the system's appearance, depending on what browser you use to access this. The instructions are basically for the construction material to support our GDOT process, but not specifically instructions on them. We will have quick reference guides, print-friendly documents to run you through all the steps we'll be covering today, so that you can have that to review over and practice and remind yourself how to work with that, besides going back here and practicing these CBTs that are available. To move forward in a slide, as I said, you have the Next button, nice big green button in the lower right-hand corner, or the Enter key. Alternatively, there'll be other options you can move through it, such as clicking on different activities or choosing different selections. And at the bottom of the screen, there is a progress bar with a forward and a backward arrow. You can use that to move forward without entering anything in it, or a backward arrow if you want to step back and check on something that's in there. Some screens will have a scroll bar on the right-hand side. It's not always active unless the exercise specifically requires it. It'll say on the exercise box that pops open to click on that scroll bar to move up or down. There are blue boxes to give you more information that you'll see popping up. Magenta boxes are generally instructions or tools for your interactivity. And if you click in the wrong place or have a little trouble on there, you'll have your yellow boxes for hints or error messages to help you move forward in the tool that you're working with. So will be available in each of our CBTs to review over and keep you reminded of what's working with it. Let's click on Next to get us into our view. And here are the different exercises as part of the Navigating Ashtaware Project CBT. We have logging on, using the online help, the dashboard in the menu bar, understanding your different roles, actions and menus, searching and filtering lists, and how to log off from Ashtaware Project once you're done. As I said, Ashtaware Project is a web-based program, so you want to make sure that you log off completely instead of either closing the X on the tab or the X in the browser window, to make sure that you're release all resources and let the system know you don't need them anymore. All right, but that's what we'll be covering, and that way we can work on it. We'll click to move forward. We'll click on the Next button. As I said, Ashtaware Project is a web-based program or application. You can open up any of your web browsers that you're working with it, whether that's Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, if you're using Opera or any other web browser on there that you're working with it, you can access the program through that. You will receive your agency's website link once we go live with Ashtaware Project. And don't worry about your username and password. That'll just be your regular username and password you use to log on to your computer and any of the other resources that we use to work with it. So thankfully, you won't have to remember a brand new password on there to work with it. Let's go ahead and click on Next. And we're going to start off with logging on, to log on to the Ashtaware Project site. So let's click on Next to see our log on screen. In your browser window, when you go to the Ashtaware Project and log on, this will generally be what your basic screen will look like, stating Ashtaware Project. You won't, of course, have the red box telling you what password to use, what username and password to use as you hop in there to work with it. But we'll get started on here to work on it. This one's pretty easy for our username. In the box where the username goes, you should see your insertion point, your cursor blinking in there, let you know you're working with it. And in that box, go ahead and type in C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Normally, you'll press the Tab button, but in this case, for our CBTs, either hit your Enter key on your keyboard or click on the Next button. That will move you down to the password field, and our password is so difficult this morning, it's simply password. So type in password in there. Click on Next. The last field that you can enter information in there is the domain field. You'll see my current domain is the G.Training 4.4. You'll have other ones. You can click the drop down for the domain and choose the appropriate one that you're working in. Go ahead and click on Next. And then finally, we'll click on the Log On button to open up Ashtaware Project. Go ahead and click on Log On. And you've successfully logged into the system. You're all ready to go. This is your basic dashboard. What you'll see when you start it up, or sometimes referred to as your home or dashboard screen, with things like your menu bar, the different the components on here that you can click on to work with it. And up here and right above where it says Welcome to Ashtaware Project, it'll show you what your role is that you're logged into. We're going to cover some ways to move through the information, such as getting help, checking other actions, changing your roles, and searching for what you need to find in there to working with it. And that way we can then hop into working with it. And that's all it is for just getting used to the log on screen once you're in there to work with it. So go ahead and click on Next. And that's your logging on. Now, once you're into the program, if you have a problem, yes, you can call the Solutions Center. You've probably got my email address and my phone number to contact me if you're having problems. But it's always a good idea just to help deal with the issue for checking on the internal help of Ashtaware Project. It contains a wealth of information, so I want to make sure that you know how to use that help system so that you can log in and find it. And that way you can then check on what's available. Let's go and check on the online help by clicking on Next and look up some information for a particular topic. Click on the Next button again or hit Enter. Now there are different levels of help in the system to work with. The highest level is your system level help or global help. To do that, up at the top, we have what's called your menu bar, and up here next to the log off or between the actions drop down in the log off icon, you have the help button. We'll be using that in a second to give you a little practice with your global help. Go ahead and click on Next. At the end of each component header, whether it's the Welcome to Ashtaware Project, external links, construction reference data, there are also question marks there. Those are more context-sensitive help focused on just the item that we're clicking on. So if I want more information about what all these construction links are for, rather than having to go and click on the global help and having to search for that information that I'm working with it, I can just click on the help on that component bar to find out more information specifically related to construction. Let's click on Next. Let's start off with the highest level on here of working with the global help. So up at the top right, you'll see the question mark there with the help word. Go ahead and click on that global help link in the magenta box. And that brings me over here to the Ashtaware Project help screen. It gives me a little description on here to help you understand how the help system works, to find out more information, some details about checking with the different contents and search. As you can see, the scroll bar is here, but it's not engaged right now for me to work with it on the CBT. It says click the magnifying glass search icon. Well, over here on the left-hand side, there's a little search icon, the little magnifying glass. If you click on that, that opens up the screen so that you can then search by specific terms. You have a search box at the top, and on the right, it will show you the different items that you select on there that you're working with it. So let's try that. Let's click in the search box, and I'm going to type in change orders. And go ahead and hit the Enter key or click the Next button, and it returns different results. You'll see it says here the 20 results found that have the word change orders in them, whether it's managing change orders, maintaining a contract change order, associating items with change order explanations, and on more information you're working with it. The scroll bar would allow me normally to scroll down as I'm working with to view it, and I could find even more down there. But let's say I want to find out more information here about managing change orders. So I'll click on managing change orders here in my results, and you'll see the right-hand pane comes up with details on managing your change orders. Change orders are how you can legally change a signed contract to get new agreements and new details in there to working with it. They'll include everything from creating, approving, and tracking the change order, so you know what's all happening if, say, the quantity of an item changes, some new items are added to the contract, you need to extend the time of the contract, or if you need to set the final quantities that are listed in the contract that you're working on. There are also other links further down that I can actually find more information about about the change orders and help you understand working with that. But that gets into more on other tools that you're working with it, so we won't go into more detail with that. To move forward, we can close the online help because it'll usually open up in a pane that we can close in the live environment. But in this case, let's just go ahead and click on the next button to close the online help. That brings me back here to my dashboard. If I want to find out more information about construction, I can click, as I said, on the component help icon, and that's that on that blue line you'll see in the magenta box here with the question mark. If I click on that, you'll see it opens up for managing construction, and I can find out more information about my construction tools in here to find out about the components being used for the construction management. You'll see different links down here where I can dig in there and find information, whether it's about contract claims, the daily work reports, dealing with meetings, payment estimate accounting, and even more information. Now, if I want to look like the other view with a pane for selections and descriptions, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little link here that says, click here to see this page in full context. Go ahead and click here to see this page in full context, and you'll see it looks familiar as well. Here's my question mark, my search box, and information about managing construction. There's also a little icon over here called my table of contents icon. Click on the table of contents icon, and this will allow me to view construction-related help topics. I can go through here and find out more information. You'll see the managing construction and also other links on here to working with it. So you can dig down and read through all the information you're working with it, whether you work through it piece by piece and using the table of contents to read it like a virtual book on there, or if you want to find just specific items on there and use the search fields to find out exactly what you're looking for, or at least pretty close. Let's click on the next button. And that lets you see how you can view the online help, whether you use the global help for everything or the component help for specific items that you want to find out more information on. These are just different tools on there you can work with. All right, click on next to complete the help. As I said, the dashboard will be your home screen, whatever role you're logged into. And once you hop into the software, you'll see that. You can always come back to the dashboard by clicking on the home button, and we'll describe the menu bar at the top of all the pages you're working with. Let's click on the next button. So we'll learn about the dashboard, the menu bar, and other navigation features in here in Ashtore Project. Let's click on next. Up at the top here, you'll see my menu bar. This will be consistent in all of your Ashtore Project screens to help you move through and complete your work in Ashtore Project. It has the home button, which takes you back, it will always take you back here to what we call your dashboard view. There's a previous button and my pages, actions, help, and log off. Let's click on next. The first one, as I said, is the home button. That allows you to come back here to that screen. There's also a little drop down arrow we're going to cover in just a moment. This allows you, the drop down arrow will allow you to change your role. As you can see right now, I'm logged in as a district engineer. When you log into Ashtore Project, you might log in as a construction inspector, or you might, if you're a manager, of course, there's a construction manager, you can log into it. Click next. Let's say I go down here into the construction reference data component, and I want to look at counties, which has that magenta box around it. Go ahead and click on counties to dig down in that information, and you'll see it brings me to my county overview screen, where it lists which counties have which numbers associated with them, and each row for options I can work with it. Now, if I want to go back to my dashboard, I don't have to log off and log back in. There we have the home button. Simply click on the home button, and that takes you back here to your home screen, your dashboard view. If you want to go back to something else, there is your previous button. You might not remember that in your web browser, there's a backward and a forward button. We tend to not want to use those buttons, but we're focused on the previous button because if you use the arrow keys on the browser, it might give you old data, and you want to make sure you have the most recent data in there. So by clicking on the previous button, you can make sure that the system knows you want to go back to your previous section to work with. So let's click on Next. And let's go back to the county's overview by clicking on the previous button. Yep, there we go. See, I'm back here at the county's overview. If you want to see the last 10 places that you've been in Ashdore Project, the previous button has a drop-down arrow. Click on the drop-down arrow and it will show you the last 10 places that you've been. If you want even more of it, for other locations you might have been to, there is a View Previous Activity link that can bring up all the other activities that you're working with. So as I said, we can click on the home button to go back to my dashboard, or you have a link here under the drop down for the previous with the dashboard. Let's click on the dashboard link, and that brings me back here to my page. So we've got the home button, we've got the previous button. The next is your My Pages button. Your My Pages button or component will list pages you have added or saved yourself in your active role. So as you're working with this, if you say like, you know what, I want to make sure that I can always come back to this page, you can save it in your My Pages, as we're going to show you right now. Click on Next. Let's go into the construction component, and down in the lower left-hand corner, let's click on Contract Administration. Click on Contract Administration. And on the Contract Administration overview screen, you'll see a lot of different contracts with descriptions and who the contractor is. Let's say I want to look at this contract B11938-05-000-0. A lot of zeros there. Let's click on that link, and you'll see it opens up my Contract Administration summary screen. If I've been using this contract a lot and rather than having to go and dig through all of my links to go and find that I'm working with it, let's say I want to save that link. On your My Pages button at the top, there's a little drop down. This has the little magenta box around it. Go ahead and click on that. And in the My Pages listing, there's a line here that says Remember This Page. Click on Remember This Page to essentially bookmark the page so you can have it again later on. And as you can see, it adds the Contract Administration Summary page link to your My Pages. So that way I can click the drop down and go to that page very easily on there to working with it. Once you're done, in the live environment, you can click the drop down. In this case, just go ahead and click on the X to close the My Pages list. And then if I want to get back to the dashboard, as we said, you simply click on the Home button. Click on Home, and we're back here at the dashboard. Those are our three major buttons. Those will appear on all of the pages you're working with here in Ashdore Project. Underneath those buttons is some text that says On This Page. These are some quick links to take you to different sections on your page. This page is not very long. It doesn't have very far for us to go when working with it, but you'll see it shows here external links, construction, and construction reference data, and that allows us to jump to that on the page that you're working with it. Other links, other pages might have further down on a page for you to work with it, and rather than you having to use the scroll bar on the right-hand side to slowly scroll down, you can use the links to jump to that location. Let's click on the Next button, please. And to practice with this, you'll see that in the link section, there's construction. Go ahead and click on the construction quick link. As you can see, that puts the construction component up here at the top of your page. You might notice that your scroll bar over on the right-hand side has moved down a little bit. And that way I can see all of the construction details in here and links that I can open up to work with here in construction, whether it's change orders, administration, contract claims, contractor evaluations, daily work reports, meetings, or payment estimates. You might not use all of them, but they're there for us to use to work with it. To get back to the top, in the lower right-hand corner is a back to top arrow. You can also use the scroll bar in the live environment to scroll up to it, but just go ahead and click on the little arrow down there with the magenta box on it, our back to top arrow, and that takes us back into it. And you'll see we're back here. We can see our menu bar up at the top and our other tools on here to work with. So that completes your dashboard and menu items on here. There's also the action menus that we're going to cover in just a moment. We've already covered the help, and as I said, we'll finish off with the log off in just a moment. Go ahead and click on next. One of the most important things here in Ashtaware Project is your user role. Your user role is a name associated with all the security access rights and information that you can use and obtain from the different components. They fit with permissions, allow you to very efficiently access the different parts of the system that you need without too much other access available in there. The roles are going to be designed by your agency and assigned to you by your system administrator. You might have multiple roles, so we want to make sure you know how to switch between your roles so you can then have the correct one sit on there as you're working with it. Let's go ahead and click on next. So we're going to show you how you can view and change your active roles. Click on next, and we start at our Ashtaware project description screen. Right above the component, Welcome to Ashtaware Project, you'll see that it says here, Project District Engineer. That's the role I'm currently logged into in Ashtaware Project. It gives me all the rights and permission of a district engineer as I work here in Ashtaware Project. If I want to change my role, I go up here to the Home button, and you'll see there's a little drop-down arrow. If you want to click on the drop-down arrow next to the Home button, you'll see a listing of all the roles that you will have access to in Ashtaware Project. As you can see, in this CBT, we have a fair amount of roles to work with it, whether area manager, construction inspector, construction manager, contract payment specialist, of course, the district engineer, materials lab managers, material lab supervisors, material lab technicians, SysWide, vendor concrete lab supervisors, vendor materials lab supervisors. You might not have all of these roles. You might just have one. You might have two. You might have four. And this allows you to switch back and forth between them because each one gives you control of permissions in there you can work with. You'll see that district engineer, which we said is our current role, has a little green check mark to indicate your active role. To change roles, let's say you want to become a materials lab manager with the permissions and rights associated with that role. Just click on materials lab manager, and you'll see it changes a little bit. Rather than the construction information, you'll see I have material information. Under Welcome to Ashtaware Project component, the external links, there's a materials component link, materials reference data, and materials worksheet. So as you can see, depending on which role you choose, your dashboard and other tools you can use in there will change for what you're working with. If I wanted to switch back to my role as district engineer, just click on the drop down there next to the Home button again. Materials Lab Manager currently has the green check mark to indicate that that's my current role. If I want to switch back to District Engineer, you can click on District Engineer. You do not have to log off and log back in to get the access. Just go to the drop down of the Home, and that allows you to very quickly change your rule on it. Usually it will keep you on the same screen you're on when you switch roles, although if it does switch you out, you know that you can dig back in there to find the role that you're actually looking for on there to working with it. So this just allows you to move around in there. And that's basically all you need to know about switching your roles. Once you have it, just click the drop down arrow and you'll see which roles you've been granted access to. As you can see, since I'm back here as a district engineer, rather than materials, I have the construction component, the construction reference data component, and any other ones with the quick links on here to work with. Let's click on next. The next tool we want to spend some time on are our action menus. In Ashtaware Project, action menus are usually indicated by a downward pointing triangle. They are located throughout the application and give you more functions or processes to work with it. They're system level or global level action buttons you can work with it. Those are going to be found up on the menu bar at the top of your screen. There are component action buttons. The component action menus will allow you to change your functions and processes depending on what component level you're at. You also have list action menus. Those allow you to change the functions and processes that can be used for things on a list, such as adding items to a list or making your changes to it. And then we have row action menus, which are on the right-hand side of a row that you're working with it, usually for focusing on an individual item in a list, such as adding details to it or deleting it. And we'll show you how to work with those as we go through it. This is for more information, so you can review this later on. Let's click on the next button. So let's go look at our different type of action menus. Click on the next button, please. And up on your menu bar, the last item besides log off, of course, is your actions or global actions menu. Go ahead and click on the actions menu button and up there on the global link, and you'll see it opens up with the global actions menu. In the global action, I have actions I can do, such as opening a process history, tracking issues, dealing with different cases, generating reports, adding global attachments, adding global links, changing my settings, or just checking on my outbox. To close that, you can click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of the Global Actions menu. Go down here to the construction component, and you'll see that with the contract administration, there's some row actions on the right-hand side, but those are currently grayed out for us to work with. So let's go into the contract administration item by clicking on the contract administration link. Once you open that up, you see the contract administration overview for us to work with. The next action button is the component action button. Here, where we have the blue bar that says contract administration overview, you'll see between the save button and the question mark, there's a little downward pointing triangle, the component actions button. Go ahead and click on the component actions button, and it shows me there's only one action I can do right now on my contract administration overview, and that's simply adding another contract. Depending on your choices in there, you might get one selection, you might get 10, you might get anywhere above or below that to allow us to work with it. Let's close the component actions menu by clicking on the X. The next action menu I want to mention is the row actions menu. For contract B11938050000-0, you'll see on the right-hand side over there the downward pointing triangle or actions menu. Click on that, and that shows us processes and items that we can do for this specific contract. I can exclude the item from when I'm doing searches. I can go ahead and open it up. Under tasks, I can add things like DBE commitments or add EOM trucking, add subcontract payments, add subcontracts. I can change it back into just a pending contract, or I can close it if I'm done with it. I can also delete mitigated contracts, generate materials and acceptance actions, or import DWR agency view reference items associations as well. So lots of different choices in there for me to select and view on there that I'm working with. Since I'm through looking over the different actions I can take in this row actions, you can close that by clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner of the actions menu. Let's go into the contract for B11938050000-0. So we'll click on that link, and that will take me into that item, and you'll see I'm opening up my contract administration summary. Once a contract is in the system, you can call up and view materials on it. On the left-hand side, we have different tabs related to that contract. Let's say I want to go in and look at the contract authority here. You'll see contract authority has a little magenta box around it. Go ahead and click on contract authority, please. Now, we've covered your global action, your component, and your row actions. List actions are more details you can and functions you can work with on, say, a list. So you'll see here with the new button, there's a little drop down next to it. That's my list actions button. Go ahead and click on that drop down, and you'll see it gives me just the only action that I can do here for contract-specific contract authority for the new button is to create multi-row contract authority activity assignments. It does give you ways to change it, and depending on what access you have and what control you're working with it, this just gives you ways to select and view that information that you're working on. So that lets you see those different actions. You can go ahead and click on next, and that lets you see the different actions that you can work with it, whether it's the global action, the component action, a row action, or a list action for the choices you're working with it. Just keeping in mind that little downward pointing triangle is your actions drop-down menu button. Click next. Once we're live with Ashdoor Project, you're going to find that there will be lots of different contracts that are get entered in there. Probably not too many on the first day. Most of your contracts that are started over in Site Manager will complete their life cycle in Site Manager. Then once we go live with Ashdoor Project, you will start filling in information in here, and they won't have to worry about going back and forth. Whichever environment you start a project in, it's going to complete that project in that environment. So Site Manager will be sticking around for a little while. They are not going to import them here into our Ashtore project. You'll just start brand new contracts in Ashtore project and move forward from there. But once Ashtore project is up and running for a while, you might need to organize your information because there's going to be a lot of contracts or details in there. So you want to be able to sort and filter your list so you can find exactly what you're looking for. You can even create advanced sorts and filters with multiple criteria. So we're going to go through the quick find to show you how you can set that up and organize your information, allow you to create and even save your own custom sorts and filters so you can use them again later on or even share it with other people across the agency. Most of them will be based for finding information, whether it's a visible or a hidden field. So let's go ahead and click on next. And let's go through searching through and filtering some different samples and lists of samples we have available. So go ahead and click on next to start us off here at the dashboard. On my role right now, I'm logged in for my project sample role for system-wide admin. At the top, we have, as I said, the menu bar that we can work with it. And then we have our quick links following after on this page. Let's go and click on the materials quick link. As you can see, that brings the material component up to the top of your screen, allowing it so you don't have to keep scrolling down to find that on your screen that you're working with. And in the materials component, let's go and look at some sample records. Go ahead and click on the sample records link. On the sample record overview screen, you'll see this nice little question mark. This is my quick find search box. You can type in whatever criteria you're looking for and find that information. So I'm going to click in the search box here, and I want to go and find a specific record. Let me go and find 2021 01 13 10 5040. Type in 2021 011 310 5040. Yeah, I got the 3, didn't I? 021 10 11 310 5040. So once that's typed in, you'll see that to the right it shows you for the system default. Usually in the live environment, it'll start searching after you type in the third character. But here with our CBT, I'd like to move forward by clicking on the next button. As you can see, it returns a sample ID of Depthi Gudra, and there's our 2021-0113-105040. It lets me know that the sample was received at the destination lab. It shows me material code and the material full name for fine manufactured sand for this item that I'm looking for. Only one matched, so I only get one return. Now you could go through and backspace to delete everything in there, but there's also a little eraser icon and eraser button to the right. Go ahead and click on that, and that cleans everything out. Next to system default, there's a little drop down arrow. This allows me to choose how I want to filter it. Go ahead and click on the drop down arrow. And besides system default searches, you can also do temporary searches or advanced searches. Temporary searches are just for this cycle that you're in here as you're working right now, and then it goes away. System default is how it is set up by the system and their basic way of defaulting for doing any searches in there. But we can also go and set up our own by clicking on the advanced option. Go ahead and click on advanced. This opens up my advanced screen where I have lots of different tools in here to work with it. Let's say I want to go and find some specific items. I want to find them that have a material listing of CON C00200, a status of in testing, and I want to order the results from newest to oldest. So what I'm going to do is here for my filters, I'm going to click the drop down next to select fields to filter by. Click the drop down arrow, and you'll see your different columns you can look for. They're both visible columns and hidden columns. So let's say in the visible column selection, I want to look for a specific material code. So I click on material code and that adds it to that box. The next field is what kind of details you're looking for. And here I want to choose contains. Other options later on are not include, greater than, less than for numbers, and other changes in there that you can work with. So as I said, I want to find those with a material code of CON 00200. So I type that into the box to help me find that information. Go ahead and click on next. If I want to add an additional filter to the information, you'll see over here on the left-hand side an OR drop-down. Click on the drop-down next to OR, and you'll see there's both OR and, of course, AND. OR means either condition can match. If you've used Excel before, you know an OR condition means that one or the other has to be true, but it's going to include everything together when it's searching for the information. There's also AND. AND, of course, means both conditions or multiple conditions all must be true to return that information. Let's go ahead and select AND. For our second filter condition, go ahead and click the drop down, next select field to filter by. And I also want to check my sample status. So go ahead and select sample status. Leave the second box there for contains. And in the box, let's type in that we want to find those that are in testing. So type in testing. If you change your mind about any of the filters, you can always remove them by clicking on the X on the right-hand screen. Let's click on next. And you'll see I could add another condition in there if you want to add even more in it. But what I want to do is I want to go and make sure it's sorted in the way that I want it to be. Under sort, click the drop down for sort. And you'll see a listing of different ways you can sort it in there. Things like authorized date, your Buy American requirements, your comments, contract IDs, control number, when it was created, who created it, when it was created by, distance from grade, and even more available in there to working on it. In this case, I want to sort it by the created date. So go ahead and select created date and check the box there for sort descending. So those are all set up in there to working with it. Now, if you find a filter that you use fairly often in there, rather than having to go in there and reset it each time, you have the opportunity to save your filters for another use. You'll see under Apply Settings, a Save As box where you can type in the name you want to call it, and then a Save and Apply button that would save it for you to work with later on. It'll simply be listed up at the top where you can then organize the information or set up for the default in there you're working with. Click on Next. There's also an Apply without saving. This will allow you to just run this filter one time and then it goes away. You can always go back in and but you have to go back in there and reset it each time when you're working with it. Otherwise, it's, as I mentioned, temporary. Let's click on the Next button. There's a field to make this the default setting. So rather than you having to go in and set it each time or having to go and choose it, it just means every time you come to this sample record overview screen, it would have that sit in there for us to use as you're working with it. Go ahead and click on Next. There's also an agency-wide setting box. This means if you say like, hey, you know what, I find this filter to be very handy. I want to make sure other people have the opportunity to use it. You'll see you could check the box there for agency-wide settings, and that way other people can use it as well. They're especially handy if you give it a name so they can recognize and say like, ooh, let's see what this filter does when they want to apply that. Okay, go ahead and click on Next. In this case, though, we're just going to run this filter one time. So go ahead and click on Apply without saving. And you'll see up here, it shows you that it's a temporary filter. Over to the left, you'll see it shows me each of the filters for the material code CON C00200 and the sample status of in testing. It's a little hard to see right now, but the numbers on here actually would indicate the date for what you're working with it. So they would put that into the descending date that we checked on it earlier. So that allows us to set that information up that you're working on. But as you can see, you can either use it as a temporary filter as we're working with right now, or you could give it a name and save it, or make it a system-wide for other people to use it in the future. So there are lots of different ways you can use your filters to allow you to save them in there that you're working with. Let's go ahead and click on the Next button to finish up searching and filtering, and click on Next again. As we mentioned, Ashdoor Project is a web-based application. So we want to make sure that the servers out there on the cloud know that we're completed using the system when you're working with it. It also prevents other people from trying to hack into your system or trying to get control of it when you step away on there, you're working with it. So make sure that you log off to it and end your session and take you back to the log on screen. Let's click on next and let's go and log off from the system. Click on next again. We have, of course, our dashboard on our screen that you're working with. On the right hand side is the nice big log off button. This is simply closes it out and you should see that the button looks like a little power button icon on there you're working with. Go ahead and click on log off and it logs off, releasing all the resources, letting the system know that we're completely done with it. We're not going to be working for anything else that you're working on. And that takes us back out of what you're working on. It's just a nice little way to make sure the system knows that we're all complete without it saying like, are you there? Are you there? Where is everybody? You can then access that by clicking on the log off. So we've shown you how you can log into Ashdoor Project. As I said, you will be provided with the actual link. More than likely, just use your good old-fashioned username and password to log into it. We've shown you how you can go in and get some help in there by using the help tools you're working with it. The dashboard and menu bars up at the top to work with your information, how to change your user roles, viewing the different triangle tools, a little downward pointing triangle for all of your action menus, how to use the search and the filter tool, and then once you're done with Ashdoor Project, how to log off from the system. So that allows us to work with and view information. Keep an eye on that as we work with it. We'll click on the next button. And we'll be able to review over this CBT anytime you want to by just going into the system and walking yourself back through it again. As I said, you have the arrow buttons to move you through it or clicking on next. And we will be providing links to different quick reference guides in there very shortly so that you can work with it. Let's click on next again. Once you complete a CBT, you want to come to this last screen on here at the end, and there's this big green button to acknowledge you've completed the training file in its entirety. Make sure you click on that green button to let it know that you're all done. That'll take you back into your menu frame set tab on there, and you'll see your table of contents screen on there you're working with. To return, click on the link here, Return to Class Progress. And that brings me back here to my class progress screen so we can move on through the next step on here for us to work with. The major tool you'll be working with as a construction inspector, of course, are filling in your daily work reports. And you'll see we have a new exercise down here, daily work reports to work on. Go ahead and either click on launch or relaunch for your daily work reports. And then click on the link to the right, launch or relaunch, to open up that CBT related to DWRs. For our daily work reports on here, let's go ahead and start this CBT, clicking on the play button. And our nice little Ashdoor Project construction material screen here to get us started. Click on next. There again is our prepared by, our logo and copyright information, our before we begin screen to describe how you move through the information working with it. DWRs. Daily work reports are what we create to document the work performed daily on a contract. The information that we record in the DWR is based on what's actually done, not what we expect to do or plan to do, but what we actually get through with doing. And this helps us with the administration of our contract. Now, typically on a DWR, the most important thing for most conditions you're working with, of course, is going to be the weather, what the temperature is, whether it's what the high temperature is, what the low temperature is, if it's been raining, how much rainwater we had on there to working with it. We can view those. You can also include other details on a DWR, such as the personnel, what the equipment was used, what work items were installed, what different locations you went to, what quantities. All of this is different ways that you'll input and view the information on there with what's listed. Once you've organized the information, it will be collected by the project manager and the project engineers so we can input that information that you're working with it. Let's click on next and let's start off with our daily work reports. It only has one exercise But after that, I think I'll bring up our developer site so you can actually see what it is in there to working with it and get a little bit other reviews. Once you log in your browser and log into it, we'll click on next and go into it. So let's add some let's review over how to add a DWR to a contract. Of course, once you input your DWRs, they must be approved before they can be put into what we call a daily diary or on a payment estimate. Once your DWR is submitted for approval, it can either be accepted or approved or sent back to be modified. Generally, keep in mind, you can only create one DWR per contract per day. Generally, the inspectors, the construction inspectors, are going to enter the DWRs to let them know what's happening, and the construction managers will go in there and approve them. And we can generate different reports to organize our DWRs from the same contract so we can view and print them. So let's go and look at that. Let's click on the next button. And here I am again at my dashboard. On my dashboard, I'm logged in here as a construction inspector. You can see that up here next to Project Construction Inspector. In the construction component, let's go down to the bottom here and you'll see Daily Work Reports link. Go ahead and click on the Daily Work Reports link. And remember, for the component action button, you'll see here it shows all daily work report. And for my all daily work report overviews, I'll follow the blue bar to the right. And over there between the save button and the help button, I can click on that actions button. When I click on the actions menu, action button on there, you'll see it shows me there's only one action to work with right now, and that's to select a contract to add DWRs. Let's click on select contracts to add DWRs. And it gives me a listing of all the different contracts in there to working with it. Let's go and find contract B11938. And in the live environment, it would start narrowing down my search right as soon as I type in that third character on there. Let's go 938-05-000-0. All right, click on next to return the contracts that match our criteria. Oh, look, there's just one in there right now. So I'm going to go and select that contract. Click anywhere on B1193805, and you'll see it gives me a little blue indicator, and it puts a green check mark on there to let me know that that contract is currently selected. You can only select one contract when you're creating a DWR at a time, so we're going to work on this one right now. Now, at the lower right, there's a little button here that says Create DWR on Contract. Go ahead and click on Create DWR on Contract, and that opens up my Add Daily Work Report screen. It has a General tab right now. It lets me know there are unsafe changes. The first box on there is my DWR date. Now, your DWR date is going to fill in that information with the current date. Now, this CBT was created back in July, so that's why you'll see it has a date of July 17th on there, 2021. If you want to change the date, like you forgot to put in yesterday's DWR, you can go in there and you can change that date in there if you want to. The next field is the inspector field. The inspector field allows you to put in that you're the person creating the DWR. If you have someone who you're helping out and they need to create the DWR, but they can't get access to their computer, or they're having trouble with their mobile device or whatever they're working with on there, you can put in someone else's inspector number and create it under their name. They'll be able to work on it after you save it. Just keep in mind that only the creator of the DWR can go in there and make changes to information in the past. If you want to log into someone else's, you can go in there and add things to it, but you can't change any past data in there you're working with it. Please notice that DWR date and inspector have little red dots by them. Those little red dots or asterisks indicate that that is a required field. So it has to have a date and it has to have an inspector for it to move forward. Click on next. So go down to the weather field and click on the drop down for weather, and you'll see some of the different weather conditions that you can put in there. If you're dealing with stormwater issues, cloudy, drizzle, foggy, overcast, there's a sunny and clear option that you'll see if you can scroll down there to find what you're working with it. Lots of choices. Now, back on the 17th, that was sort of a cloudy day. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to select cloudy. And that fills in the cloudy in there that I'm working with. There's a rainfall amount in there. If there was a certain amount of rain at that time, you could go in there and input that rainfall amount. Okay, go ahead and click on next. The next field that doesn't have an asterisk, but usually you want to keep this in mind as an important field to have that listed in there, and that's to put in the load temperature. Click in your load temperature box and type in 80. Hit your enter key to move down to the high temperature, or click the next button. For the high temperature, let's put the high temperature as 88. Click on next. And that allows you to input that information as you're working through it. We'll cover these items on the right-hand side in just a moment, but on the far right, there is a scroll bar. Go ahead and click on your scroll bar to scroll down a little bit. And you'll see that there's other fields down here, such as contractor on site, daily staff on site. And what I want to point out right now is attachments. We can set up global attachments and add files to our DWRs. Whether it's a picture you've taken or a PDF you want to upload in there, you're working with it, you'll see that the attachments will let me know if there are any attachments associated with the DWR that I'm working with it for that specific DWR date. Click on your scroll bar again to scroll back up. Then we have a little explanation for some different items you're going to find here associated with your DWR. You have your remarks field. Your remarks field will indicate if people have added remarks to your DWR. Remarks is going to be much further down in your DWR, and we're going to add one in just a moment, and that will change our number of remarks on there. But this is just a quick indicator without you having to scroll down to every single page to find a remark. You can simply say, is there a remark? It's 0. No, there isn't. Oh, there's 1. Then we'll have to go down and look at that. Federal project number field will indicate the project number assigned by the federal government. State project number field will indicate the project number assigned by the state government. You can see both of these have numbers already associated with them to the right to fill in that information. Entered by will usually have your name in there if you enter your own contracts and the date that it was entered. I haven't saved this yet, so it doesn't input that information. So we'll see this as we input it in just a moment on there to working with it. Then you have approval date and approval by fields. Those are both when the manager approves the DWR, that lets them know that that was the person who approved it. There's also a payment estimate num field. That indicates the number generated by the system when it's assigned for the contract payment, the estimate is created. You'll run into this later on as you're working with it. Let's go ahead and click on the next button. That scrolls me down. And besides payment estimate num field for number, there's also a payment estimate status field to let me know the status of the payment. The general values of those are still in draft status, still pending approval, hasn't been approved yet, or rejected. Go ahead and click on next. There's agency views to let you know if there are any item templates associated with the DWRs. And work items installed to let me know if any work items were installed through this DWR. You'll get more information, but the thing about most of these items on the right-hand side is they're not actual boxes. They'll capture the information from other locations, so you don't have to worry about entering the information in at this point. It's captured from other locations. Go ahead and click on next. Down at the bottom down here, you'll see the remarks section. In the remarks section, you can add information for other details. Now you'll see under remarks, there's type and remark, and both of them have an asterisk on there, which means if you enter a type, you have to enter a remark to go with it. Remarks need a type to define what that information is. Let's look at some of the different types you can have for your remarks. Click on the drop down for type, and you'll see there's ACCD for accidents. We don't hope for them, but sometimes they occur, and we want to put in details into our DWRs so we can capture that information. CNCR, of course, is for change orders. So if we have to create a change order for our contract, this is where we want to capture the details for the information you're working with it. Just regular old DWR comments for details we want to have here on our DWR. PRIF for project information. VISI for visitors that have visited our site and want to make sure we detail that information. WEA for weather eye conditions on there you're working with it, like, oh, look, the hailstones were as big as golf balls. So we want to make sure we define that on there since there's no other place to input that information that you're working with it. That's where those fields are listed. Let's add a quick DWR comment. So go ahead and select DWR comment. And then you can type in your remarks in there. In the remarks box, which it's jumped to, type in comments. You have about 3,999 characters that you can type into a remark field, a little short of 4,000. And you can then type in as much information in there to define exactly what the comment is that you want to include. And you can add multiple comments or multiple remarks in there to include that information that you're working with. Go ahead and click on next. Let's click on the scroll bar to move back up on the DWR. You'll notice in the remarks, it's got a little number 1 in there to let me know there's a remark listed. Underneath my blue component bar here for the contract, it shows me the DWR date, who the inspector was, what the sequence of the process is, and the status you're working in. Your DWR, as you can see, is in draft status. It must be in draft status for you to enter any information. If it's not in draft status, you cannot add anything else to it. But you'll notice this nice yellow box here to say there are unsafe changes. Go ahead and click on the Save button to save your changes. And that changes my yellow box to a green box to let me know that my daily work report has successfully saved. As long as it's still in draft status, you can go in there and change anything else you want to in there. Change the date, change the temperature, change the weather conditions in there, or anything else that you might want to rearrange. You'll notice that on the right here, besides the remarks field having a 1 to let me know there's a remark down at the bottom, and the federal project number and the state project number, it shows me who entered it. So you'll see there's G.C0001234, Jane Doe has entered it, and what date it was entered on. Now, apparently they did this on 7/17 at 2:54 p.m. So this allows you to update and see that information for your DWRs as you're entering your information. Click on next, and that completes this part of working with your DWRs, understanding and viewing for information. Now, you've probably entered a lot of DWRs in there as you're working with it, just so we can see a little bit more, because there were a few other items that once you approve it, let me go back here and with the notes and other fields on it, I want to spend a little time going over those so you can see those to work with it. So I'm going to open up my developer site here. And let me log in here to Astra Project so you can see it in more of a slightly more live environment than the CBTs. And you'll see here's my screen on here that I'm working with it. This is my dashboard. I'm now logged in and I can access my information here that I'm working with it. You'll see here I'm logged in as a construction manager. If I wanted to change my role, I click on the drop down for home, and boy, I have a lot of roles in here. There's my construction inspector. I'm going to log in as a construction inspector in there. Doesn't look too different from a construction manager, but it does maintain the right amount of permissions and controls and access that I have. Then when I'm ready to create anything on here, whether I want to go and find out more actions on there that I want to work with it, or get some help on there that I want to work with it, I'll come over here to the construction component, and I'm going to come down to my daily work reports. I'm going to click on daily work reports, and it opens up. Let's go and find one of my contracts. I'm going to type in B119. It goes and searches and returns some of the different contracts in there that I'm working with. I have my contracts that are already here, and this way I can review over those that are already listed, but I need to add one to it. You'll see the last DWR I worked on was back on the 14th. Yep, that was me. So I want to create another one to work with it. So I remember to create a DWR on the blue component field, click on the drop down for the actions button for the component actions menu, and there's select contract to add DWR to. So to create a brand new one, use your action button. Don't look for the new button right on there. Just click the actions menu and click on select contract to add DWR. It opens up my field. There's B11938, or you can click in the search box and type in to help narrow down, especially if there are a lot that match what you're looking for. I'll select that contract, gives me a green check mark, and then I can click on the button here to create a DWR on the contract. Give it a second to load the details, and you'll see it puts in the date automatically, and in a moment it'll put my name in the inspector field here. If I need to change anything, if I forgot yesterday's, I could go in there and set it up back for yesterday's. You cannot create a DWR in the future. You can only do it for today and in the past.
Walter, we did have a question.
Okay.
You may have already addressed this. Can you make changes to a DWR after you save it?
Yes, you can. As long as the DWR is still in draft status, you can go in there and make as many changes as you want to. And we're going to cover more of that as we work with it. So you're right on the ball there as you're working with it. So let me take a glance over there outside the weather, and I say the weather looks pretty sunny out there. So I'll go down here and click on sunny and clear. No rainfall amount. The temperature, well, it started off a brisk 38 degrees where I am right now. And I'd wait till the end of the day to work with it. So maybe I might assume that the date will get up to 68 degrees on there. Hopefully a little warmer than that. So I'll fill it in. And I can go and find out other changes on it. So let's say I've entered this information right now and I click on save. Once I click on save, other tabs on the left-hand side will become available. You'll see here it still says my status is draft. So if I need to make any other changes to it, I can go in there and change anything I want to. Like maybe I want to put in there that we had a visitor, or unfortunately there might have been an accident or something else happened on there. So remember, remarks are down at the bottom. Right now there are no remarks in it. So I'll scroll down and here's my remarks field. So I'll click the drop down and I'll say like, oh, look, the visitor. Let's put in here that the visitor was listed there. And I might put in that architects aim to check the installation of retaining walls. So I can add any other remarks in there to work with. It's already been saved once, but once I type in my new remarks with the type and the remark in there, and scroll back up, you'll see it gives me that little yellow box again to say there are unsaved changes. It's still, as I said, it's still in draft status, so you can still work in it. And so I'll click on save, and you'll see it gives me a save complete. And now it's saved my little remark in the system as it's loaded it to the server, so everything is up to date. So as long as it's still here in draft status, you can make as many changes and update that you're working with it. It just makes sure that there's something on the server in case I lose power or lose connection on there. It still includes that information. Hopefully that answers your question. On the left-hand side, you'll see I have other tabs that once I create this DWR and save it the first time, suddenly appear. There's a notes section. The notes tab allows me to add just any information I want to include in there as separate from a remark. Just little details you want to include about the DWR just for your own sake, or to keep included in there that you're working with. We have a tab over here for contractors on site, and I can go and select what contractors are at the site that I'm working with it. You'll see a few of them listed in here, and you can narrow it down just like any other searches that you're working on it. Let's say I have the APAC Southeast helping, so I can select that and add that DWR contract to it. Again, you'll see that, look, I'm unsaved again. So even though you save it, as long as it's, as I said, it's in draft status, you can make as many changes as you want to. If it's in drafts, if it isn't saved, if I turned off my computer or something happened, it wouldn't have this captured in there. So it's always good to make sure you click on your save button and update it so everything can be included in there. And you can see there's the APAC Southeast. I can come down here and set their start time. They started today at 8 o'clock. And I'll fill that in. And let's pretend it's the end of the day. So let's say that they finished working at 2 o'clock. I'll put in there they worked until 2:15. And change my AM to PM. That would be about 6 hours. So that's all filled in. And again, it lets me know they're not saved. So I'll click on save again to save those changes. And it retrieves my contract with my information. I have my list actions if I change my mind about the contract or remove them or check on other listings I'm working with. There's a field for adding specific contractor equipment being used in there. If you want to include your contract personnel who are working on the site, you can go in and add that information. You also have staff, whether it's the contractor staff or the agency staff that were involved in working on this DWR. Contractor personnel are usually going to be considered your hourly workers. Staff, whether contractor staff or agency staff, are going to be considered your contractor personnel or your hourly workers. Contractor staff are going to be your salaried workers. You have your postings section. This is where you're going to add what items were used at the site. Quantities are going to be listed on the postings tab on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, with our developer site, we don't have any in there, so we can't select any items to input it. But this is where we can then add those into the fields you're working on. Right now, as you can see, there's nothing in there right now for us to input, but your postings is where you're going to put in the quantity. There's also acceptance records to let us know how it's been accepted, and we don't worry about the force account contractors in there to working with it. This allows you to update and change information for filling it in. Under your component actions menu, we're going to show you how you can move your contracts out of draft status and submit them for approval, as well as what your managers do when they start to accept the contracts as well. So that's how you'll go through inputting your information for your DWRs and inserting them into the contract you're working with it. Let's click on the next back here on my field. And since I've completed the daily work reports on here, we're going to click on the green button to acknowledge that everything has been completed there for me to work with it. And I can return to class progress. So that covers our first two sections on there, and understanding how you can put in your information in your DWRs so everything can be up to date as we're working with it. We're going to go into the daily work reports review and approve, which is what you're looking for, Dale, there, of how you can move it from draft status into pending approval and what your managers do when they approve the DWRs. And our last exercise on it will be the daily work reports review and approve. So let me go ahead and launch that. And click on launch from the table of contents. This one's pretty easy on there as you're working with it, because once you've gone in and you've worked on your DWRs and you've filled in all the information on the report that you're working with so you can see it, then we're going to go in there and we're going to accept it. All right, so let's go through our title page and see our information that you're working with it. You can click on next. Our prepared information before you begin. Daily work reports, as we said, are those documents we create to keep track of what's happening on a contract, from the people who are there to what work was done to what the weather was like. These are all things that you'll work in to improve it. So we need to submit it so that it can be put into a daily diary or into different reports on it. So let's click on next and go through submitting a DWR for approval. We'll also go in there and see what the managers do on their side when they approve a DWR. If they find something's wrong, they can also go in there and reject a DWR. And if a DWR is rejected, we're going to show you how you can put it back into draft status. You might not have abilities to go in there and review and approve them as an inspector, but we just want to give you a little understanding about what the managers have to keep up to date with and put that in there. Final approval of DWRs are usually taken care of by the construction manager or the area manager for it. Let's click on next. Submitting it. Once you input your information in there that you're working with and you're ready to move out of draft status with a DWR, you need to submit it for approval. Submitting a DWR for approval will change its status from draft to pending approval, which lets the managers know that the DWR has been completed as much on that side. Anyone can go in and submit a DWR. Remember, only the creator can go back and make older history changes for the document that you're working with it, but anyone can go in there and submit it when they get access that you're working with it. So with our document on here, as I said, anyone can submit it. Only the managers can approve it. Let's go ahead and click on next. Here we are at our dashboard. Let's click on the scroll bar to scroll down. And you'll see over here, daily work reports by contract. As you saw, I could go into my daily work reports and do searches for the works on them, or if I just want to keep focused on a specific contract. In this case, let's click on daily work reports by contract to bring up my information. Let's go and check for contract B30022 71-0. Uppercase and lowercase are no different when you're doing your searches. Let's click on next. And here's my contract. Now, looking through it, to the left, there's this little expand arrow. Click on the expand arrow, and it'll show you some of the different DWRs that are currently available. This one, as you can see, for 8/16/2021 is in draft status. To go and open up that DWR, click on the date. You'll see it's a link there. Click on 8/16/2021. And it opens up. Now, here you can see that my status for this one is draft. It's got all the other sections. Let's assume they've gone through it and filled in all the information that they're working with it. We're done with draft status. So we want to put it into submitting it for approval. To do that, we go back to our component actions button. Remember, your component actions button is there between the save and the question mark on the blue bar. Click on the actions button. And besides adding a new DWR to it or copy it, under tasks, you'll see there's approve and submit for approval. Our basic process is to get it out of draft, to submit it for approval so that it can move forward on the way we want to work with it. So let's click on submit for approval. Notice the status is now pending approval. That's all it is. That just lets the managers all know, hey, I finished with this DWR. It's ready to be reviewed and looked over and then approved. Or if worse comes to worse, rejected, in which case I have to go back in there and make some other changes to it. Let's click on next. And that's all it is. As you can see, it's a really complicated, time-involving, and other working. Nah, it's easy. You just go in there and you click on the actions button and you submit it for approval, and that's done. The managers will receive a notification when they search on their side to check it, and then they can approve it that they're working with. And that's all you'll need to do as the construction inspector. Fill in the information, make sure you've included all the details you're working with it, and submit it for approval. Now, just so you can see what the managers go through when they have to accept it, is once that you've submitted it for approval, the managers must approve the DWRs so that it can be submitted in a report or added to a diary on there you're working with it. As a manager, they have the option to either approve a DWR or they can reject a DWR. If it's rejected, you'll have it available to put it back into draft status and make your changes to it so it can be modified and then resubmitted. As I said, approval for DWRs is taken care of by your construction managers usually. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's click on next. And again, we're here at my contract daily work report summary. And you'll see that the status here is in pending approval. Now, I believe the role that we're sitting in already is for construction managers. Construction managers can create their own DWRs, submit them for approval, and then approve them themselves. But as a construction inspector, you need to let the managers take care of that. So to get it out of the pending approval, what the managers will do is just like when you submitted it for approval, is they'll go and click on the actions button, and then you'll see that there's approve. They click on approve, you'll see the status now shows as approved on there. It's all ready to go. That way it's able to be put on the reports and added further information. Let's scroll down a little bit. You'll see we've got the entered by Jane Doe and the entered by date down here. If I scroll down, you'll see the approval date and the approved by field have been inputted in there. This Jane apparently is a manager. She can both submit and approve it. Since you're an inspector, you will have your information in the entered by and entered date fields, and the managers will have theirs in the approval date and approved by fields. As you can see, it's easy to run through that and sit up as you're working with it, just making sure everything is filled in for those documents correctly. Let's click on next. And that's all it is. Let's click on next. Now, occasionally a DWR might not include the right information, or something's missing from the details in there you're working with it, in which case your managers would reject the DWR. We're working on making sure that you can be informed easily if a DWR that you've submitted is rejected. Otherwise, the manager will just give you a ring up and says like, hey, that DWR you worked on today, you need to correct that on your page so I can approve that and move forward with that listing. But let's go through rejecting your DWR if it needs to be corrected. Again, that's usually done by your construction managers. So here we are. I don't see daily work reports down here, so I'm going to click on the scroll bar if you would. Scroll down and let's go to daily work reports by contract. Let's go and find for our contracts B3 CBA 2002271-0. All right, there's our contract. Let's expand it so we can see all the DWRs associated with it. As you can see, there's one from the 16th that was approved, that wasn't approved yet, and one from the 17th that's in pending approval. Yep, this is approved. The status is pending approval. So let's go to the 8/17/2021 and click on the DWR date link for 8/17/2021. That'll take me into here to the field that I can check on it. And you'll see the status is pending approval. So the inspector has put it in pending approval status so the managers can look at it. The manager takes a glance over and says like, well, come on, that's the 17th. I know there was some rain on that day, but they put in there's no rainfall amount recorded at that location. Did it go around them? Oh, wait, so I need to send this back to them. So I'm going to reject this one so they can actually put in the correct rainfall amount on there. So we go up to our component actions button, click the drop down, and besides approve and change the draft, you'll see there's reject. So I go ahead and click on reject. You'll see the status has been changed to rejected. This is a way to indicate to the creator of the DWR, hey, you need to go and check on this. Something's not quite right. We're working on setting up an easy method for when you reject it to let them know, either by sending them an email or including some other notes in there to let them know exactly why it was rejected on there, what needs to be changed. So let's click on next. And that's all it is to reject the DWR. Okay, click on next. Now, if the rejected DWR is noticed by the construction inspector, they're going to be like, hey, I need to correct this. Well, you can't make changes in the submit for approval, or rejected status. You can only make changes to a DWR in draft status. So we need to change this DWR back to draft status so that we can then make our changes to it. Changing it can be done by the creator or the manager. And manager can't add the dates, can't go in there and change the amounts or the listings on it, but they could add a note in there to make it easier for them to find out why it was returned. Let's go ahead and click on next. Here's my contract daily work report, and you'll see the status is rejected. So we have to put this back into draft status so we can make changes, for example, putting in the rainfall amount. So we go back to the component actions button, and you'll see that under tasks, only one choice, change to draft. Click on change to draft, and you'll see, my status has now been put into draft status. And that's all it is. Then we can go in there and we can make our changes to it. We can save it again and then resubmit it so we can get approval for that status that you're working with. So that's how you can go through and keep everything up to date that you're working with it for making your changes. And that way we can update our tools in there. All right, Dale, hope that answered your questions about how to move a DWR from draft status into submitting it for approval. And you've got a chance to see what the managers do when they approve the DWRs so they can actually put it into the right status that they're working with. So if that gives you more detail about working with it and organize your information in there, such as getting used to your payment estimates. There are other CBTs you'll cover later on if you get promoted to manager status, where we go over payment estimates and other quick reference guides you're working with it. So just click on next, and then you can acknowledge that your training is completed, and that finishes up all the tools you're working with. Okay, switch back here. I can go back to class progress, and that covered most of the tools you'll need to know as a construction inspector to update your materials and keep them abreast that you're working with. One of the nice things about Astrowork Project, just to keep in mind, is if you are logged out, if you're timed out as you're working with it, it will do its best to remember exactly where you are, so you can get back into that location without having to jump around and view it. So I've gone through here and I've entered this DWR. I've added the contractor to it. I've looked over other information. Maybe I've even considered putting in some postings for the listings on here that I'm working with it. Now I'm ready to submit my DWR. Where would I go to submit my daily work report and submit it for approval? So once I'm ready to go in and approve my DWR, remember that's your action menu. over here between the save and the drop and the question mark on it. Click on the component actions menu and then submit it for approval. What does it say once you've submitted a DWR for approval? Does it change the status from draft? And what does it put instead of draft for the status? What does it change my status to? You see the status on there has changed to pending approval. And that way we can go and view it on there. Now you'll see as a construction inspector, I can only change it back to draft. I can't approve my own because I'm just a construction inspector. Certain people will be able to change their role. They can click on the home drop down for the role over there, and they can then switch themselves back to a construction manager. And of course have to log back in to find, possibly you'll see it keeps me in the same place on here that I'm working with it. But since I'm now logged in as a construction manager, once it finishes loading on here, I'll be able to go and click on the actions menu. And once I list the action there, here as a manager, I can go in there and approve it. Now, if a contract is approved, you still can change it back into a draft, or you can go and change your mind later on and reject it. It doesn't lock it in there once it's approved. It lets everyone else know, hey, this has been looked over by the manager. He knows it's all set up and filled all the information in there, so we can update that as we're moving forward. So you'll see if I click on the component actions menu, even though I've already approved this DWR, there is the option there to reject it. Even if they approve it, they still have the option to bring it back out and make the changes that they're working with it. But this way you can then see what the documents are in there that you're working with it. And we're generally shooting for just having most of our DWRs approved so they can be updated and arranged in there that they're working with. But that lets us see our information. Of course, we already mentioned we can jump around on it. If I want to go back to the dashboard, click on the home button to jump back out of it. But this helps you understand how you can work with your DWRs to make sure everything is up to date that you're working with it. Just making sure that you fill in with as much complete and full information you're working with it. Then once you've inputted everything in there, submitted it for approval so the managers know they can look at it. And you'll see, since I logged in as a construction manager, my dashboard does let me know that I'm logged in as the construction manager on here, so I have access to working with those tools. So that gives you a way of understanding those different tools and they're working with it. Managers have other sections they cover later on, like the daily diary or dealing with change orders or filling up other progress of the contracts. But this gives you an understanding about working and inputting all of these tools that you're working with, so you understand what they need to do and how they're inputting their information, they're working with it, so they can include those details. Just getting practice with it and viewing it. The nice thing about it is you will have in ELMS, the class will have those CBTs. You can go and relaunch through them, walk yourself through them and practice with them again to help you understand them. So, and you will be able to shortly receive those CBTs to go over all the information that you're working with. And that just lets us see some of the ways you're working. And that's mainly what you want to understand as a construction inspector. Now you'll be able to move through Astor Project and navigate through the tools that are all available on there. You're working with it. You can create your DWRs, put in your information and include the necessary information that you need to work with it. And of course, once you've finished with your DWRs, how to submit them for approval so your managers can review them, and then keeping our fingers crossed, hopefully sending back all those approvals for them, as well as notes if something gets rejected, so you can then make the changes in there that you're working with it. But that covered everything that we wanted to be aware of here as the construction inspector training. So this gives you a way of understanding how the new system will be up and running. It takes, as a construction inspector, it's pretty easy just to go in there and make your changes and create your DWRs with the information that you're working with it, so everything can be listed correctly and keep everything up to date with what you're working with it. Bearing over them, go into the system, click and link. It's all on the web, on the internet, where you can go to the cloud-based selections to choose what you're working with and call them up. So that way you can then understand what's in there. Show the first 10, and there's our contract and there's the one that I created today. If I want to go and review over that DWR, just click on it, and I can go in and add other information. Even though it's approved, as I said, we can change it and reject it again, so that I can go back in there and make other changes to it. And that way you can keep everything up to date. That helps you understand more about creating them and working with information. But that's what we wanted to cover today. I want to thank you all for hanging with me today. As I said, the CBTs are still in ELMS so that you can review over them later on and practice with that information as necessary to help you understand more about working with those tools. Well, thank you all very much for being here today. Wish you all the best as you continue to create your DWRs and make GDOT processes successful. That will be all that we will cover today. Have a great day.